One of the issues we discussed in the first forum today was about the live illegal wildlife trade, which is a topic that doesn't always get as much attention.
Yes.
Could you speak to some of the issues in Uganda and affecting the great apes in Eastern and Central Africa regarding the live wildlife trade?
Yeah, actually, the Ngamba Isle, sorry, I'm even going to backtrack. The Entebbe Zoo, which
Yes.
then eventually became Uganda Wildlife Education Center,
Yes.
used to have a lot of, it started off with chimps from the illegal wildlife trade.
Right.
They kill the mother, and the baby's too small to eat, and the baby ends up at the zoo. And so actually one of my first studies I did as a vet student when I was in Royal Veterinary College, University of London, I worked for a week with the chimps in Entebbe Zoo before it became Uganda Wildlife Education Center.
Okay.
And then now, later on, the chimps became so many, and Ngamba Island was created.
Right.
And some of them, a lot of it is like at the Uganda-Congo border, is where a lot of those chimpanzees are captured. I've been actually personally involved in rescuing a chimp that was being kept by an army officer around Budongo Forest. We found one of his staff walking with the chimp. We went to his home. We took it away from him. He was very accepting of it. We took him to the zoo, and he's now on Gamba Island. He's an alpha male called Kalema, because I rescued him. So, so we've been involved in that, and it still occurs. Unfortunately, chimps are still being, killed. The mothers are being killed, and the babies are being sold. But it's reducing, thankfully. But there's a big problem with that, and they're either caught at the other border, Uganda-Congo border, occasionally in Entebbe, and unfortunately there's still a demand for that. And
so
we need to really work hard on that issue.
In terms of the live wildlife trade, the illegal trade in live wildlife species,
Yes.
what is the demand? What is causing the demand? Where are the source countries for example, for the great ape species that are being trafficked, and what really is behind that culturally or in terms of the demand?
As far as the demand goes, no respectable zoo can take those great apes. I mean, no accredited or respectable zoo can take them. So I'm still not absolutely sure where the greatest demand is, but it could be somewhere where the regulations are not so tight, like maybe the Middle East or somewhere like that. But no accredited or respectable zoo can take an animal from the wild like that. All the ones they have are captive bred most of the time. And so at least that's situation. We've done well in, everyone has done well in like reducing the demand from abroad, outside Africa. But within Africa, there's not a lot of regulation. And so these things happen. And also, some people traditionally think if you eat a chimp or a gorilla, you become 5 times as strong as a
really?
human. Those beliefs are still very strong in some parts of Africa. I mean, gorillas are considered a delicacy.
So we're talking about demand locally in certain parts of Africa for the body parts of apes.
Yes.
As well as demand outside of the continent of Africa, maybe for pets or for wildlife parts from apes.
Yes. And when there's a demand for the mother, they eat the mother, the baby's there, helpless. So they're like, we can make some money if we sell this baby to someone.
Right.
And
so
they sell the baby to someone.
Opportunities to generate income.
Exactly.
Again, goes back to your previous statement about addressing livelihoods issues as a holistic sort of entry point to conservation issues.
Yes. Yeah, it's all interconnected. Very much so. Yeah.
So what do you think can be done on the demand side to reduce demand for the live trade in wildlife, especially great apes?
I think a lot of education is very important, and a lot of advocacy as well at the government level.
So we talk about advocacy. What kind of individuals are we talking about engaging? Who can be most successful in delivering these messages? And what different methods or mediums are there to address demand?
I would say that it's very important to get the governments involved, the ministers at that level.
It's a very high
the
level.
Parliamentarians.
Diplomatic and governmental bodies.
Yes, they need to get involved to understand the importance of the great apes. I mean, in Uganda, people say gorillas are very important because they contribute most of the money for tourism.
Right.
But they should also know that they're important for other things as well. Chimps, people don't actually notice the importance so much because they haven't contributed so much to tourism.
Right.
But we've had incidences we've had to stop chimps going from Uganda to China, for example.
Really?
This happened over 10 years ago. Yeah, because the governments at the time didn't think that it was a problem. But with a lot of lobbying from the conservation groups, they realized, hey, this is a problem. So it never happened. But, those things could still come up. And that's why it's important to really speak to the parliamentarians, when they have their parliamentary committees on conservation or climate change or tourism, such issues need to come up to these parliamentary committees.
In this first Science and Policy Forum that we attended this morning, where you spoke, we also heard about the relationship between trafficking of wildlife, especially live animals, and disease. For example, our project coordinator, Doug Kress, gave the example of a chimpanzee which was found in a backpack in the Cairo airport, for example. And so could you speak a little bit about the risks of the illegal trade in live animals and wildlife, and the connection to public health and addressing the spread of communicable diseases?
There is a very, very big risk because a lot of these animals, they're captured from the bush, they're taken in, there's no check to see whether they have any diseases. Unfortunately, diseases like Ebola, Ebola does kill great apes, and people have got Ebola when they've eaten great apes that have died of Ebola. But a lot of these zoonotic diseases, you don't know what the animal could be carrying, and you're carrying this and you're moving it through the food chain or through the across international borders. So there's a lot of scope for zoonotic disease. It moves from being in the country to going across the continent, and that's how a lot of these diseases end up becoming huge outbreaks.
So actually the trade in live animals or illegal wildlife trade actually has a very strong connection to addressing public health issues and ensuring that there isn't transmission of disease between humans and great apes, for example.
Very much so. I mean, like during the huge Ebola outbreak in West Africa also has many chimpanzees and gorillas. People there eat chimpanzees and gorillas. Some of them see it as a delicacy. And, it's all part of the bushmeat. And bats, they eat all these animals. So you can imagine people eating them exposes them to zoonotic diseases, which then make other people sick. So that's a very big issue. And if they go across the borders without any quarantine, no checks, people won't. For example, they may even not know that this great ape is about to die. It just looks sick. Obviously, it's easier to capture because it's sick. Right. But they don't know what made it sick. And that, whatever made it sick, if they're going to eat that great ape or pass it on to someone else, zoonotic diseases can then come from the great apes to people very easily. Where there's no quarantine or anything. For them, it's just a commodity we're passing through the market. So they don't realize that this is an animal that needs to be quarantined.
So actually addressing issues of illegal wildlife trade is very central to addressing public health concerns locally and globally.
Definitely. And a lot of this illegal wildlife, some people even do illegal wildlife trade in bats, they do it in birds, they do it in monkeys. A lot of these animals could harbor diseases for us. So bats have been thought to be, definitely with Marburg it's been proven,
right.
But with Ebola it's suspected that
with hemorrhagic fevers.
Bats. Yes, the hemorrhagic fevers.
So the other two issues I wanted to quickly talk about are the relevance of great apes to general sustainability and environmental protection. We know that there's a lot of carbon stored in great ape habitat. We recently had a tool released which shows the overlay of great apes with carbon storage. And maybe you could just talk a little bit about the importance of great apes to protection of habitat in Uganda.
Great apes are really helping to protect habitat in Uganda, really. Because before we only used to have 3 national parks, which was Queen Elizabeth National Park, Murchison and Kidepo. Those were created in the 50s when Uganda gained independence, a few years before Uganda gained independence.
Right.
And then in the 90s, late Dr. Professor Edroma realized that, hey, there were places that had very important species like the great apes, and if we don't secure them under the national parks, we're going to lose them because they were under the forest reserves and they were just concerned about trees. They were not concerned about the animals. So he lobbied with a group of other conservationists, and they managed to make Bwindi National Park, Bwindia National Park, Kibalea National Park, which is the place where there's so many chimps and primates. He got all these on board, and if he hadn't done that, it would definitely there likely wouldn't be gorilla tourism or chimp tourism, and most of the forest would have gone.
It's one of the main draws for tourism in Uganda.
Yeah, the main draws, the great apes are a great draw for tourism, but the fact that they came under national parks, they were now protected, people couldn't cut trees anymore, and now the habitat was protected. And all of this helps with the whole carbon sink and all of that, and preventing and reducing the effects of climate change. So great apes help to preserve habitats. Once you've decided we have great apes, we have to protect them because they're so critically endangered, they're charismatic, they bring tourism dollars, then the habitat is protected, and then everybody benefits. Because Bwindi Forest is a very important source for water as well.
Right, as a catchment area.
As a catchment area, it's very, very important for water, and there's been a few microhydro kind of units which have been created to generate electricity locally. So the forest is important for so many things. Gorillas is the main reason for keeping the forest, but so many other benefits come out of it as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Gladys, thank you so much for joining us at the United Nations Environment Assembly this week, and for your presence in this interview. And we appreciate your partnership with us at GRASP.
Okay, and thank you so much for all the great support and partnership with GRASP, and the promotion of all the work that we're doing. And we're
Very
really
welcome. Thank you.
learning a lot and benefiting a lot from being a partner of GRASP.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.